Good evening, all. I have just found another science fiction gem. This one not on Tubi, but on YouTube. And this one is just from a month ago. It was released on June 5th, 2026. It's called Signal 1. It was written and directed by Jonathan Sobol, and it stars Isabel Fuhrman, Dennis Quaid, uh, David Thewlis, a veteran British actor, John Hutcherson, Kiera Allen, and Raoul Bhaneta. I hope I pronounced that right. Um, it's interesting. It's without spoiling too much. People know that I like intelligent science fiction movies, not just things about monsters and terrible aliens from space who rip people's faces off. I like things that are interesting that ask big questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What does it mean to be human? What is an alien? What will happen if we actually contact an alien race? What will they be like? What will they want? What will that communication do? Um, and these are questions that are again, without giving away too many spoilers, are tackled in this movie in a very interesting and intelligent way. A scientist played by Isabel Fuhrman named Annike Kask is invited by this kind of bigwig, multi-billionaire type, played sort of supposed to be kind of like Elon Musk, a guy named Sam Houston. If people don't get the joke, Sam Houston was the first governor of Texas, um, and a hero of the Mexican-American Wars as well. Um, but he's played by Dennis Quaid, and he invites Dr. Kask, points her out in a lecture that he's giving, that she is the first person who actually photographed dark matter. And he says, I wasn't here just to meet you. I want to offer you a job. And she says, what? What's the job? And he says, I want you to come to this private island that's owned by a kind of eccentric scientist named uh, Perry Glassner. And that's the character played by David Thewlis. And he wants you to come and work on this project with him, and I can't tell you what it is. It's secret. And she's intrigued, and she's not going to go, and then she decides she is going to go. It showed you in the beginning, and this is important because it comes back up in the movie, and I'm sorry if this is a bit of a spoiler. When she was young, she had a little sister, and was very close to her, and they were like best friends, and her sister died of apparently some kind of cancer. They don't really tell you what it is. They're playing in the garden once, and there's a very significant scene where they have a firefly in a jar, and the sister says, you have to let it out, it needs to breathe. And so they let the firefly go, and after this happens, her sister passes out. And she immediately calls her mom, and then the next thing you see is she's in a hospital bed and dying of some sort of cancer. They don't tell you what. And she does pass away, and that's very sad for Annika, and she feels a terrible thing that happened to her. But again, this kind of informs her decision to go, to take a risk, uh, because that's the kind of thing that her sister might have done or wanted her to do. So she goes to this island, and it's very strange. There's very little there. There are only like 10 people on the whole island, but there's a kind of a Y-shaped building, and there's some strange, sort of odd-looking pyramids, and we don't really know what those are until they're built out of like glass and concrete, and they're like pyramids stacked on pyramids, and we don't know what the heck that is. And it turns out that this is some sort of an invention. This eccentric scientist, and again, without spoiling too much, has decided that the way we've been trying to communicate with aliens, i.e., sending radio waves, is not efficient, and that there's another way, which would be through what's known as quantum entanglement, is where one particle and one part of the universe can instantaneously contact another particle in another part of the universe. This is real science. This is not science fiction. That principle is real, and it does exist, and has been proven, in fact, um, at Fermilab, and also, I believe, at the Large Hadron Collider, that this is a real phenomenon, which, interestingly enough, Albert Einstein predicted way back in about 1905. He called it, quote unquote, spooky action at a distance, but it is now known as quantum entanglement, and it is real. One of the things I like about this movie, it uses real science, not made up stuff. And you won't find any phony terms in this. What they're talking about is potentially real. What Dr. Glassner wants her to do, Annike, is to reproduce what she did to figure out how to photograph dark matter. And that is what she did. She didn't just use one algorithm. She took all the algorithms that they were trying to use and put them together. And what that did is it created order out of chaos and allowed her to take the photograph of dark matter. Now that hasn't happened yet. Dark matter has not as yet been proven, but scientists are pretty certain it exists. Dark energy, they're not certain about that. There apparently is now a way for the quote-unquote standard model to work without requiring dark energy to exist. But dark matter, they're fairly certain does exist, and they're hoping to find proof of this at the Large Hadron Collider when it's restarted. I believe in 5 years. It's down for a rather large maintenance, but they are going to restart it, and that's one of the things we're going to be looking for. Anyway, getting back to the film, there's another scientist named Charlie Kaminsky, who's played by Josh Hutcherson, and he is the hardware guy, and she is the software person. There are two problems: that the hardware to what the scientist wants to do, and again, without too many spoilers, he figures out, like I said, that there's this way of communication that if aliens are really trying to communicate with us, if they are quote-unquote post-biological, i.e. if they're no longer possessed of physical form, but are basically pure intelligence, which is something that he hypothesizes that they might be, then they would want to communicate with us through this quantum entanglement, and he wants to communicate back. First of all, he wants Annike to prove that his thesis are real, and I won't tell you whether she does or not, but that's kind of interesting. And then the second phase is that through Josh Hutcherson using his fixing the quote-unquote hardware, he wants to communicate back through a device that he calls Little Mouth, and that's the device that we saw with these strange pyramids. A number of interesting things happen. Again, I'm not going to give away what happens, but communication is in fact established, but it's not quite what we thought it would be, nor are the results what we thought it would be. And some interesting things happen. Again, without breaking this down too much, it asks some interesting questions, and it poses some questions based on a theory of alien contact known as the quote-unquote dark forest theory. This is one of the things that's used to try to solve what's called the Drake equation. Frank Drake was a physicist, and one day he calculated how much life there should be in the universe, even if we discount the fact that there's billions and billions of stars, or only certain ones have planets around them that could support life. And he even boiled it down to how many of those are likely to have intelligent life arise, and it's an infinitesimal number, but it's still billions and billions out of the universe. The universe should be teeming with life, which led to what's known as the Fermi paradox, which is Enrico Fermi, the famous nuclear physicist who worked on the Manhattan Project, was dining with Oppenheimer and a number of the other atom bomb scientists, Leo Szilard and some others, and he said, if using this Drake equation, if they're out there, where are they? Why haven't they communicated with us? Well, there are a number of theoretical answers to that question. One seems to be that if that intelligent life, if it evolves like we did, eventually reaches a point where it destroys itself, and therefore, whether it's through creation of AI that takes over and wipes everybody out, or through nuclear war, or just stupidity, we don't know. That's a theory. But another one is what's called the dark forest theory, and that postulates that the universe basically is hostile, and based on our own experience with what happened to inferior cultures that encountered superior cultures, i.e. like the Aztecs versus the Mexican conquistadors. What happened to the Aztecs? They got wiped out by the conquistadors because they didn't have their level of technology. They didn't have guns and cannons and things that could counter them. So they were wiped out. And that's what some scientists are afraid, they postulate the idea that we shouldn't be searching for intelligent life because if it finds us, if they're thousands or millions or possibly even billions of years older than us, or far more intelligent, they're just going to wipe us out because they'll look at us as a threat, possibly, or maybe just because that's what they do. Or we could be subject to invasion or enslavement or destruction, and that we should just shut up, basically. That's the dark forest theory, that we should stay in the dark forest and don't come out because the big bad wolf is out there. This movie riffs on that a bit and postulates that it's possible that the universe is in fact hostile, but that these particular aliens that we contacted through this quantum entanglement process are not, and that they're actually a post-biological race that they say we do not create or destroy, we protect. And the way they protect is that they basically became the universe. And therefore, the irony at the end, and this is a bit of a spoiler, but I'm sorry, I can't really discuss this without revealing this, is that what they say is we're safe from the universe, we're safe from the dangers of the universe, from the hunters and the killers that are out there, but we're not safe from ourselves. And that is kind of an interesting message. And the final question, again, I'm sorry, this is a spoiler, but, well, you know what? I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to tell you. Go ahead and watch it. Again, it's called Signal 1. I think you'll find it very interesting. It's intelligent, intellectual science fiction that uses real science to present some very interesting questions and some possible answers.